Hi there. In my previous video, I went over my list of the top 10 TV shows of 2023. Now in this video, we're looking ahead to the new year. This is my list of the most anticipated shows of 2024, and going over that schedule of when to expect things. Now, obviously, this is subjective. Explain that beginning of the other video, that I'm presenting a list of the top upcoming TV shows that appeal to me as a guy who runs a Game of Thrones franchise dedicated YouTube channel. There's a whole concept with streamers of taste clusters, that subsets of fandom that presumably, if you're into Game of Thrones stuff, maybe things I'm excited for you will probably be interested in as well. Like when I looked at, Preston Jacobs' Red Team Reviews list of the best shows they liked in 2023, they largely aligned that these are the kinds of things we're into as, sci-fi fantasy fans. But there's also overlap with other drama shows in general, and, animation stuff. We'll see what happens. But the hope is that if I, as a fan, am interested in this stuff, so will you, and there's sort of an eye towards what will we as YouTube channels talk about during the long wait until a new season of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon itself, of Westeros shows? Now the good news is we will never have a wait this long ever again, because we were waiting a year and a half between House of the Dragon seasons because they didn't know if season 1 would be a hit. So they then had to take time planning it out as a cinematic universe. Now there'll be at least 2 shows. They have greenlit Dunk and Egg. It will start filming this summer, and that will air around 2025. So we'll never go a full year and a half without content again. And on top of that, the cloud hanging over all of us is we will be seeing this year the after effects of the combined Writers Guild and Screen Actors Guild strikes. Screen Actors Guild hasn't gone on strike since 1980, so that'll be an even bigger effect. This didn't quite affect last year so much because, it takes time. These are already shows in post-production. They delayed some of their shows that were already finished to air in 2024, but there's only so much you can stretch it out. So there weren't quite as many new shows in 2023 because they didn't just run everything, then let it go dry. That they spread it out a little more. They tried to. But going over the advanced schedules of when they say now they're going to be airing things, that might change. It's a fluid situation. It's not that it's going to cripple all of 2024, that the big dry spell for us from the strikes will be the first half of the year. And it happens to coincide that not only will it be everything up to summer, House of the Dragon also happens to be coming back in summer. I'd say the dry spell was ending even if, Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings or The Boys came back in summer and House of the Dragon came in fall. I'd still say summer is the point where you see half a dozen shows we actually watch are coming back. As it turns out, that first wave happens to also include House of the Dragon. So this is subject to change, particularly for the second half of the year, because I think they're going to be spacing things out even more. And this will have ripple effects all the way into next spring. But the key focus is on everything now through June, because they said House of the Dragon will come first week of summer, and that always gets defined for HBO as first week of July. That's what they mean by summer. And even then, we're hearing rumors they might delay it or something. I'll treat that as it happens, but other shows are coming back in summer as well. It's just, how will we survive until July? What will there be to talk about when we don't have trailers to go over? Because there isn't filming news anymore for us yet. And Dunk and Egg's filming got moved to summer. So what are the most anticipated things for us? This is a much shorter list than making top 10 lists for 2023, because I'm not really looking forward to that many big things in the first half of the year. And I'm going to gloss over the second half because, like I said, just know that there's a couple of big shows coming in succession and we won't really have to wait too much. Well, actually, I sort of divide the year up into thirds for myself, that the first half is the real dry spell, the real point where we're seeing the after effect of the strikes. Summer, for me, is House of the Dragon season, that even if I think Lord of the Rings might be coming back in summer or The Boys, I won't be able to report on them. I'll be focused purely on House of the Dragon. But I'll be catching up on those in fall, and plus, like, Wheel of Time and other shows will be coming back in fall. We know that Andor got pushed to spring of 2025. That's not coming out. Again, this is fuzzy. Maybe Lord of the Rings will come in fall and Wheel of Time in spring. That's why just looking at a chart, it's not this year-long dry spell, it's the first half. Because we will continuously have one show or another that appeals to us after that. But the dates, the hard dates, I'm actually worried about are first half. I've talked about this before, that there's really micro seasons to every year that you can kind of think, oh, it's spring, summer, and fall. But with TV seasons getting shorter, like 8-episode seasons, it's sort of like there's 6 seasons in a given year of 2 months each. Really 5, because May, June is considered a dead zone. They don't really put out stuff then, that because all the sports championships, HBO particularly, doesn't. And it's not, people, oh no, it's not, well, historically it's always been, there's evidence that they never premiere stuff then. And I've said just off the top of my head that you've got the winter season of January, February, then the spring season of March, April, when a lot of the big Emmy shows come out because the cutoff is in May. Then you've got summer shows, which are July, August, because they skip June. Then you've got, I don't have a separate name for them, early fall and late fall, depending on whether it's a September show or a November show. And the reason I bring this up is there has really been nothing in the winter season of 2024. Anything that would premiere in January and run through February. So, I mean, anything coming last week of February I consider a spring show, obviously. That, other years like Euphoria came out in winter. Last year, The Last of Us came out in winter. It was a winter season show in January. We don't have that this year, so just going chronologically, what are things of note? The only thing in the winter season was Max's True Detective Season 4. I was watching it out of curiosity. I know everyone skipped the last 2 seasons, they were bad, but this was a revamp with a new showrunner. Turns out it actually does tie in, at least loosely, with the first season, that they're in the same fictional universe. They mention stuff. They're starting to mention Carcosa again. But just the whole, it's John Carpenter's The Thing, Mountains of Madness, and Jodie Foster's a really good actress. That watching it, I don't know if it's the most inventive thing ever, but it is really solidly produced in terms of just the pacing, atmosphere, and cinematography. And I've watched the first 2 episodes that have aired to date, and they were pretty good. I mean, watch them back to back. Episode 2 is better than the first one, just meeting the characters. That, yes, Red Team Review asked me, was it worth watching? Yes, I think it's at least worth watching to remark on. Also because it's going to be short. It's not an 8-episode season. It's only a 6-episode season. So I've been enjoying that. I don't think it's good enough for me to be making analysis videos about, but benefits from the fact there isn't a damn other thing on in the winter season that appeals to me, except for True Detective Season 4, and it's pleasant, so I'm watching it. One other thing that actually is out in the winter season that I am not watching is, and not that I hate it, I'm just not into it, is Masters of the Air on Apple TV Plus. Just came out, I think, yesterday. And it's like, it's supposed to be part of the family of if Band of Brothers was the war in Europe and the Pacific was Japan. This is about the following ground units. This is about the air war in World War II, made by the same executive producers, starring Aston Butler, Fade, and Elvis guy. Looks good. I like historical dramas like that. I'm just not feeling it. You might be into that. I mean, I don't think our Game of Thrones sci-fi fantasy things would be as into it. We'll see. It might be good, but just I'm not really hyped up for it. Me, personally. And I'm going to list off shows here these are shows of note that I think you guys might watch, but I personally still wouldn't. That I think, like, shows you would watch as a Game of Thrones fan that I don't have the time, or I'm not feeling it. Like True Detective, it's short enough, and it was actually good enough after I tried the first 2 episodes. Might as well watch the next 4, because it's relatively short. It's nice. But that sums up the winter season, that we have nothing through March. Well, actually, through last week of February, which, as I said, sometimes it's fuzzy that they put something out the last Sunday in February, but I count this as a spring show. The next one, which is on February 22nd, which I count as early spring. I know I'm just making categories. February 22nd is the first really large-scale premiere with Netflix's live-action remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Obviously, this would appeal to fantasy fans, very much so. I myself won't be watching. I am a huge fan of the cartoon. It is very near and dear to my heart. I watched it with my undergrad college friends back when we were all together. We're not anymore, and because we all moved back to our home states, I was really into the fandom for that at the time, and knew people who were cosplaying. I didn't cosplay. I knew people who cosplayed it and everything. What was it, 2008? This was huge, and the level of the writing on this show was amazing. And I'm not knocking on the live action version. I'm just saying the animated version was such a perfect cartoon in the medium of animation, and so near and dear to my heart, that any remake cannot match it. And I'm just removing myself from the equation, is the phrase, I guess, that I'm not hating on it. I don't want to make comparisons to it. I wish them well. I myself just don't feel like watching it. Because for me, it'll always be the cartoon. And yet a lot of people wanted the live action thing. If nothing else, if it's a good show, it will drive more people to watch the original cartoon. Apparently what happened is Netflix got the rights to the original show right before the pandemic hit, so it turned into, there was this newbie boom during the pandemic. A lot of people, like, the ratings were through the roof for Netflix, the viewership numbers for the Airbender cartoon. And Korra had problems, but I still enjoyed it because they soft rebooted it twice, but every time it got better. Particularly seasons 3 and 4 were thought of as a coherent whole. Like a teenager, it had growing pains. But the big thing is, this is the first show, Last Airbender, but there are worries because we've heard weird casting things. More importantly, that the creators of the cartoon left over creative differences got me worried. I just said, I'm not going to pay attention to this. If you guys want to watch it, if it's nice, if it doesn't feel derivative, fine. And we really deserved something after that deeply insulting attempt at a live-action movie years ago, which was just, how did this get made? It's deeply offensive. And the other thing is that, at least for a lot of the actors, it will be good, Asian representation, people saying they don't really get to be the main character, like the Fire Lord character. The Uncle Iroh guy was in Mandalorian as that New Republic pilot, but good for those actors. I hope they do okay. I hope that vague things we've heard about behind-the-scenes problems don't turn into a huge problem. Like we were all hyped up about for Netflix's other adaptation from animation to live action of the anime Cowboy Bebop. How do you screw that up? Because it's relatively like a sci-fi Blade Runner type thing. It's not fantasy when they're in their ship, and you somehow just got the tone wrong. The trailers look nice. It's just, if it turns out to be good, I'll check it out in a year. I love the cartoons so much that I don't need to compare it to something. I recognize that is me personally. A lot of fantasy fans will be looking at this, particularly because there isn't that much else on in February to March. Particularly in live action. So for the fantasy action crowd, that'll probably be pretty big also because it is a maturely written children's show, but still fundamentally a children's show. I don't know. So that's a date on the calendar. I'm just telling you, you would probably like this. I myself will not be watching. Also because I'm busy with other projects. If there was nothing going on, yeah, but I'm preparing for House of the Dragon Season 2. Another thing, then moving on through the spring season to March 14th, we have Season 2B of Invincible. Now, they're hour-long animated episodes, but they aired months ago, like a few weeks ago, back in November, and now they're going to have Season 2B, 4 more episodes. That's a bit long of a wait from November to March, even though just take your time if it comes out this perfect quality that... If they are very rewatchable episodes, as they are, rarely have I rewatched... If something's good, if it's rewatchable and you get new meaning out of it, or new details, and it's at that level of quality that it's worth the wait, that it earns the rewatch, as opposed to, let's just what the streamers did eventually in the boom. Let's just throw out content. It doesn't need to be rewatchable. I wouldn't even include this on the list because like I'm going to marathon it with friends. I count it as a 2023 show anyway. It's only 4 distinct episodes, so you might get like 4 breakdowns worth out of it. It's not a very long show. It's 4 episodes. So while it's on my radar, I wouldn't list it as a huge show. Similarly, like the only thing I'm really watching between now and March is True Detective 4. I'm really not going to make videos about it. Like, there's nice videos about it, but it's not firing up the Preston Jacobs or Alt Shift X's of the world. Really, I think the next big really hyped thing that it isn't, well, it's an adaptation of it, a cartoon or something, with Avatar where you're on it or you're not. March 21st, Netflix's Three Body Problem by Benioff and Weiss. We will be hate-watching just to see how are they screwing this up. I will be watching it to point out, notice how they're getting, these are basic cinematography mistakes or just weird dialogue they have. Like that clip, that 2-minute clip they put out in itself, people were criticizing how weird it was. That they're cursing a lot, the camera work isn't good. That I need to watch that in order to make reviews of it, knowing it will be bad, to critique it. It's not exactly something I'm promoting, of course, but Netflix bet the farm on that. It cost $200 million just to make season 1, a $200 million showrunner contract, add in the huge license they paid the Chinese company to make it. This is like a $500 million investment. This broke the bank and is ridiculously over budget, so that's on the horizon of... You think they'd be advertising it more. They said there's one more trailer coming up. But March 21st, we have Three Body Problem. In terms of stuff you guys would enjoy, what I really think is the big release of the spring, of the entire first half of 2024, hands down, is April 12th, a little later into spring, but still spring, April 12th, Amazon's Fallout series. I am a big fan of the games, the old school isometric earlier games, and it looks nice, but it's a new story set in this world, not even an adaptation, and I'm going to be really busy getting ready for House of the Dragon by then. I'm not going to watch it. I'll check out clips and other people's reviews to see how good it is. I'm wary of it. Even though I wish them well, it's another case where I wish them well, I don't know if it'll be a hit. It's run by the team that made HBO's Westworld, which may or may not be a good thing. I don't know. Like they've shown they're competent at doing camera work and stuff, but... And maybe there were other problems behind the scenes on Westworld that just led it to decline, because it was too gimmicky as a mystery thing versus it's an action-adventure Fallout. Like, maybe that'll be a better fit for them, I don't know. Again, much like Avatar, it's one of those situations where win or lose, it's a boost to the public exposure of the original source material. That this will draw a lot of people to the video game franchise that didn't know about it already. Obviously, gamer culture doesn't mean mainstream audiences. What is Fallout? This will be a big boost. So that's fine for them. I don't think it'll be a mega flop. I just don't think it'll be... I don't get the feeling it'll be great. If I'm surprised and it is good. I'm not... Amazon has such a buggy interface that I'll watch clips, look at reviews, and I might end up watching this later in the year, but I'm not going to be following it live. That's just me. You guys will probably be reviewing, like the Preston Jacobs Red Team Reviews and Alt Shifts of the world will be reviewing Fallout. Good for them. It's something to talk about during an otherwise dry spell. And what I really like is it'll probably draw attention away from how much of a failure Three Body Problem is, where it's this it's a cerebral sci-fi thing in the style of Arthur C. Clarke. They are not going to produce it well because they're idiots. And then there'll be this straightforward action-adventure, post-apocalyptic TV show based on a video game. I'm hoping it comes out 2 weeks later, March 21st, April 12th. I'm hoping Fallout really overshadows Three Body Problem. So, in terms of things you guys would be reviewing, The Last Airbender show, which might not be good, but you'll be looking at reviews criticizing it. That's February 22nd. Fallout, April 12th. These aren't things I am going to be watching or making videos about for one reason or another, except for Three Body Problem. Those will be criticism videos, but not regular videos where I'll just like watch an episode and just list off like in a podcast. These are, notice how they're doing the camera thing with the zooming in on the faces. Notice how the dialogue doesn't really make sense. That kind of thing. I'll be following, but I don't consider it a following kind of deal. The only other thing coming out between then and summer is, while it's a dead zone from May to June in the United States due to sports, internationally, BBC will be putting out Doctor Who. With the 15th Doctor, and I know they had a good Christmas special, a new show, old showrunner coming back. Let's see if that revitalizes it. I won't have time to watch. I fell out of the show for a long time. It feels like this is a good time to come back in, but particularly so close to the summer release of House of the Dragon, I don't think I'll be following that. If you're not a channel that was already following Doctor Who, like Preston and Red Team don't really cover it that much, I don't know if you would. Unfortunately, let's see what happens there. On the other hand, going to the Disney front, are there big mainstay Star Wars or Marvel projects in 2024? And the bizarre answer is no, even compared to last year. Like Skeleton Crew, I have no desire to see. The one thing I'm vaguely interested in, and just as, even if it's a flop, it's interesting looking at a different time period, is Star Wars The Acolyte. Just to see how would they do the High Republic era, 100 years before Phantom Menace, the Republic at its height. Carrie-Anne Moss is in it, which is also nice. Let's see how they do with that. We don't even know when The Acolyte is coming out, because they keep pushing back their schedule because of the strikes. Some say summer of 2024, others say fall of 2024. We don't know, I just know it will not come out before July. So that's like the one Star Wars project on my radar. And we know less about it than we did like Ahsoka. Could be a surprise like Andor, we don't know. Marvel is an even worse thing, the MCU stuff. Well, like Echo, I even heard was good, but I'm not into it. The Agnes Coven of Chaos thing, that there's going to be a point next Christmas where I do a Marvel catch-up, where I marathon all the TV shows I stopped watching after the first phase of them, and I'll deal with that, but there's nothing on a scale of like Loki Season 2, where it's must-watch TV. So both of those, the live-action Marvel Star Wars verses, I'm really just maybe The Acolyte. Live-action. Which leaves my one last little note here. X-Men 97. A continuation, not a reboot, of the X-Men cartoon show I grew up with, the groundbreaking X-Men cartoon show. That this is like a fan dream come true. Why not just jump back into that with as many of the original voice cast as we can? I left it off the list at first because we don't know exactly when it's going to come out because of the strike. That I misread this, where they said it's coming out March 27th. What they meant was the advanced preview comic is coming out March 27th, with the show to follow soon after that. You mean in April? You mean in summer? I don't know. But in terms of all this stuff that there's must-see Sunday night TV like House of the Dragon where I'm watching live, I'm just too busy with other projects, catching up because I'm really far behind. I'm always behind. What am I watching? The combined list is, right now, True Detective Season 4, there's nothing else I watch. Then in the spring, March, April, I'd probably catch up on Invincible with friends long after it premieres, just because I'd like to savor it. The big spring thing for me is criticizing Three Body Problem as a mega flop. That's we're laughing at it, not with it. You guys will be watching Fallout in April, though I personally will not have time for it, and I wish them well as a fan of the game. Just, it's hit or miss. And maybe in April we will be getting X-Men 97. That I will follow religiously. I will not be reporting on it because there is an entire industry of Marvel reports. I don't need to control everything. I will be enjoying it as a fan. So that's just me. If I'm really looking forward to X-Men 97, just the storytelling. That raised the bar for the medium of cartoons as a whole. Plus, that was technically in the same universe as the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. We need that back. The feel of that and the level of storytelling they were capable of. And we haven't really seen that many previews of it, unfortunately. But we hear good things. That brings us back up to summer season, early July of 2024, when I will be focused entirely on House of the Dragon. And if there's other stuff coming out, like if Lord of the Rings comes out head-to-head with it, I will have to handle that in fall, though I think it might actually come out in fall, depending on how... the schedules are fuzzier summer, fall, onward in the year. And we'll deal with that, but the point is the dry spell will be over. That it's actually bad for us if we have Lord of the Rings directly opposite House of the Dragon. Ideally, we would have Lord of the Rings come out in fall, and Wheel of Time 3 come out in spring. But if Lord of the Rings did come out in summer, then we'd have Wheel of Time in fall, and then we'd have Andor. We do know that Andor is coming out in spring. So there's at least one big sci-fi fantasy show for every season that way. So summer onwards, the dry spell we've been living in is over because of this damnable strike. Oh, and the other big thing to think about in fall is, of course, Arcane Season 2, confirmed for November 2024. They just put out their first teaser. So, yeah, obviously I'm not going to be reporting on that. I'm going to be watching that as a fan. So, I don't know how we're going to do this. I feel bad for, like, Preston and Carmine are really heavy into reviewing Amazon's The Boys, and what if it comes out at the same time as House of the Dragon? They'll be so busy. That is the problem you want to have. That we go from having no shows to report on to, oh man, now they've dumped 3 shows we like on at once. That's what we're looking at here, but I'm trying to limit the stuff. I'm going to be so busy with the House of the Dragon stuff. One disaster after another happened this year to me with computer problems, with other things, that I have just on the verge of wrapping up my report on the filming cycle. And there's rumors it might not even come out until August, though we think those are incorrect. That just Matt Smith misspoke. We don't know. We'll have to see. That in terms of what will be the it show of the year, of the zeitgeist of what people are looking forward to, Three Body Problem is going to be a mega flop. I know as much about Fallout as you guys do. Is it good? We'll at least be talking about it, if nothing else, in terms of fueling YouTube discussion. All of this, of course, ignores the bigger, large-scale issue. First week of March, or last week of February if you're going to an early screening like me, the delayed Dune Part 2 movie. That even though this is a dry spell for sci-fi fantasy television, in terms of what fuels YouTube discussion videos, from first week of March through the summer, through the end of May, there's going to be a 3 to 4 month period where everyone is talking about and dissecting and making analysis videos and faction profiles for everything that was in Dune Part 2. The Part 1 was a masterpiece. I trust them completely. This is what we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2. That is the real big thing of the spring, more than any one TV show at all. That if you could divide up my year, it's basically Dune Part 2, then House of the Dragon, in terms of the top-level discussion I'm doing. But tell me in the comments, I'm more interested in that, what you guys think. Are there other shows you are really looking forward to between now and July? That's the key part, because the schedule after summer is very fuzzy. We don't know when other shows are coming back. The Acolyte, The Boys, even Lord of the Rings. Are they coming back in summer? Are they coming back in fall? We don't know, and we probably won't know until summer. I've looked, they don't know themselves because of the strike schedule affecting everything. So particularly between now and July, what will you be looking forward to that not only are you watching, but you want to see YouTube breakdowns about? I won't have time to make most of them, but in general, for the other channels looking at this, if they do look at this, just what are things you want to see people making YouTube discussion videos about that are airing between now and July? What are your most anticipated shows?